Welcome back to another episode of Questions with Crocker with me, Dr. Crocker, and my husband, Shane.
Hey.
Hey, how we doing?
Good.
I see that you have a water next to you and not a Mountain Dew.
Yes.
Doing okay?
No.
Do you want to tell people why you're drinking water and not Mountain Dew?
Because I'm being tortured.
That is not even true.
I'm forced into doing it.
It is not true.
What is it?
So we decided a couple days ago. If you are not watching us on YouTube,
strong-armed.
let me make sure I do a proper entry. So I'm Dr. Crocker. I'm an emergency veterinarian, and we own a general practice vet hospital together. My husband Shane is an entrepreneur and my co-host extraordinaire. We do this podcast to answer your questions. We have some good ones today, and some good info and stories. But we also talk a little bit about our lives and share what's going on with you. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. So if you want to see Shane's reaction to me, that's the best place to see us. And we love if you leave a review or ask us questions. There's a text message feature on the app, and you can send us stuff while you're listening if you are triggered by something or if you just have some feedback for us. So make sure you check those things out and let us know what you're thinking. We have actually been absent from the podcast for about a month because we went to every 2-week podcast episodes, and then we had an episode where the sound was messed up. So we were going on vacation. We decided to just take a break. And now we're back on track and excited to be here. So why are you drinking water? Let's get into it. You're not being tortured. What are we doing instead?
Some 75-day challenge thing.
75 days. We are doing the soft challenge. There's a hard and soft. Yes. Not because we're softies, but because the holidays are coming up. And on the soft one, you can drink a little bit of alcohol on social events. So we decided Christmas, Thanksgiving, probably want to have a little something. But other than that, we're drinking a ton of water. So you're drinking less Mountain Dews. Yay. Here, high five. So proud of you. Is your headache better too?
No. Caffeine withdrawals are legit.
Caffeine withdrawals are legit. I was telling someone at work that I was annoyed because it's only been like 5-6 days and I already feel like your face looks thinner just from not drinking like 800 Mountain Dews. And of course, me, I'm going to be like fighting till the end to like lose 5 pounds, but that's all right. It's just the difference between boys and girls. But we are working out daily. We are reading. Have you been reading?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you already failed the challenge. We just started.
I was waiting for my headaches to stop so I could concentrate.
Do you know how many?
I'm going to start next week. I'm doing 65 soft for the reading part.
Reset. Do you know how many times I work through things while I have a headache? Like, you can't just be like, I have a headache. It's not like you have a migraine and you can't be near the light or... Okay, sorry. I need to be supportive. Great job, babe. I'm very proud of you for what you're doing.
I feel like this water bottle makes noises every time I drink.
It does make noise. You need to get a Stanley with a straw next time. You want me to get you one? Are you sure? We have plenty with our daughter. So anyways, we are doing 75 soft. And part of the reason was because we went on a vacation, incredible vacation in St. Thomas. We went doing CE. So I did CE half a day. The whole family came. And the other half of the day, we snorkeled, we went to the aquarium, we had good food, we just rested sometimes in our room, but it was like wonderful and relaxing. And I can't even remember, do you remember the first time we realized that CE could be these like vacation getaway ones?
I don't. I remember, I think it was Dr. E was talking about them.
One of the doctors I used to work with was like, you're doing CE all wrong.
Yeah.
So we have been with these types of CEs where it's like half a day of CE and learning. We've been to Napa. We've been to Hilton Head. We've been to Bar Harbor, Maine. We've been to St. Thomas now. We've done quite a few of these, and I feel like
there's a few more that we're forgetting about.
There's a few more, and also a few more I want to do. They have like a couple cruises, which I think would be really cool to do, and they're longer. So you have less days of actual class and then more days to like explore and do stuff together. So very excited to discover these. But this was actually with my friends. They started this company, Veterinary Ventures. One's an emergency vet like I am. And so it's just fun to also like support someone that we know who is doing their own thing, because we are all about being entrepreneurs and starting something new. So this one was a little different because they also had some childcare options, and they did like a group event. So we went to the aquarium, got to see a ton of animals and interact with them. And I mean, our kids definitely interacted. Our son asked what, no less than like 30 questions on the door.
A lot of questions.
And actually, a lot of people came up to me and said, like, he's very smart, great questions. And they were great questions. But there's like that thing as a parent that you're proud that he, as an 8-year-old, feels willing to speak up. But also, like, if everyone else is ready to move on with the tour.
There's 60 people here and they're all ready to go to the next animal.
Like, we can read the stuff on the sea turtles later. And like, so now I feel like all the time we tell him, we'll just ask Chat GPT later.
Yeah.
Like, because he asks questions and they're great questions and I don't have the answers all the time. So I'll be like, we'll ask Chat GPT, and then he doesn't forget and we'll be late at night and I'll be like, did you ask Chat GPT? No. Let's get it out.
What's the chances of Chat GPT actually being accurate?
I don't know, but it saved our lives multiple times with an inquisitive child. So I will take it any day and every day. So that was really fun. We decided that we maybe needed to work on being in better shape after a trip like that. Lots of snorkeling, but I was way more tired than I should have been. So we're doing the 75 soft, jumping back into things, and pretty much jumped back into some craziness going on in the veterinary world. So Proposition is 129. We have to talk about it. It is passed in Colorado by the voters, so by the public. And basically what it does is creates do
the voters really know what they're voting for?
Well, that's a great question. No. So let's talk about, it was proposed to the public, which I think this happens a lot, as a great new position that's going to be, created in veterinary medicine that's going to reduce your cost as a pet owner. So that was kind of the way it was promoted to all them. And it ended up passing, I think, by 52%. So a pretty slight margin. But what it does is charges CVMA, so the Colorado Veterinary Medicine Board, with creating this new position and establishing kind of the parameters around it. The interesting thing is Colorado State has already, like on their website, they have this is a class and a thing that you can do.
A class?
Well, it's not a class. They have it as a degree, I guess, that you can get. So it is a master's type program. And so it is, I think, 3 semesters online. So you're not in person. And then I think an internship type thing and a in-person semester. And in that time period, they have a very long list of skills that they are going to teach these people that are not going to have a veterinary degree and are also not going to be like, they don't have to be certified veterinary technicians or already have any sort of training in our field. Like basically it can be anyone who's interested in doing this. I've been told that once they graduate, they're expected to be paid $70,000 to $100,000. And basically they can work under the supervision of a veterinarian and do pretty much everything vets can do except for prescribed medication. So that means surgery. That means diagnosing. That means you could see them instead of your regular veterinarian. And they were very smart. Like, I have to give them credit for this because they named it a VPA. So when you hear VPA, what does your automatic thought be?
Somebody with a degree. Right.
But like human equivalent.
Yeah, like a PA or nurse practitioner.
Right. So you think human, like physician assistant. Well, it's actually like the veterinary, like, what professional assistant or something like that. Like it's not the exact same thing, but they marketed it like it is the same thing. And the crazy.
So for a nurse practitioner or a PA physician assistant, don't you have to have like undergrad degree, and then those are like pretty long programs, aren't they?
You have to have much more schooling than this, and then the clinical hours that they have to have, my understanding is much more extensive. And honestly,
and how does the scope of work compare to that of a PA or nurse practitioner?
So it is more broad is what I have been told. And really all this like just happened a couple of days ago. So we're getting a ton of information very, very quickly about it. So a lot of people reached out to me that were human PAs, and they were saying like, we do not do abdominal surgery. They might help open and close in a surgery. So they might assist, right, the doctor in doing it, but they don't actually do the procedure. There have been webinars that have been done by the people who support this that say that there doesn't even have to be direct supervision of these individuals in a hospital. So that essentially means someone could be off site and you could have someone doing surgery on your pet that is not a veterinarian. And that to me is just...
But is your medical license on the line?
Yes. So that's the other thing, because they don't have their own like liability and their degree is not something that is established completely, like our liability would be on the line. And so in humans, they have their own liability, but they also can come after the supervising physician and attending. So again, I'm learning as I go, and I wanted to talk about it because I want people to give me information about like what they know. But there's a lot of very interesting things. The Colorado website says that it's actually going to be more for people to work in a shelter setting. So to do like low cost spay neuter. And I really could see a place where that is needed. But then I had followers on social media tell me there's already that. There's already an expansion of the scope of practice for certified veterinary technicians that they can do spays and neuters, euthanasias, can do things in a shelter situation that like they don't normally do. So it is a very muddy thing, but the frustrating thing is it was proposed as it's going to save you as the pet owner money. It's going to make costs come down and make access to care more available. And I just don't see that happening. Instead, knowing the way that the U.S. works and capitalism works, what do you think could happen?
There's just going to be more volume running through, and I don't see it adjusting prices. I mean, if you think about like a surgery suite, like our hospital has a surgery suite and a dental suite, right? So maybe you could have a veterinarian bouncing between a dental and a surgery going on. But I don't think we reduce the prices because of that.
No, if you think about the equipment.
I mean, it's still your time and equipment and everything else still.
Right, that goes into it. So where is it cheaper? Like, how do you make the procedures cheaper? Even if you think about a regular routine visit, right? Like, it still takes time. It still takes an exam. It's still, if you do a cytology.
I think it'd be interesting to look at human medicine and see how the mid-levels have changed human medicine. My guess would be that it's increased access, but it definitely hasn't reduced prices.
My thing is, as a business owner and as a large amount of practices are now owned by corporations and private equity, they have no incentive to bring their price down. They have more incentive to hire somebody, pay them less than they would a veterinarian, but charge the pet owner the same amount of money.
It sounds like there needs to be a lot of parameters still put around this. Like, can one veterinarian oversee 47 of these people? I mean,
that's the concern is like legitimately, if you look at who we think is behind this and a lot of the money came from to support this and some of the connections, it looks like many of the corporations are very much pro. I had people, and it hasn't been verified, so I don't know for sure, but I had people say they worked at corporations in Colorado that were putting up signs telling the pet owners coming in the building, vote yes for Proposition 129. If this wasn't going to benefit corporations in some way, why would they be a part of advocating?
I mean, you'd hope that they're doing it because they can't get veterinarians, right? Maybe there's a shortage of access to actual veterinarians, so they're trying to figure out a way to make sure that patients have access.
So that's another really, really great point. That is what a lot of people that were for this said. However, there's been new data coming out from AVMA that says there's not a veterinary shortage. They're about to open 10 plus new veterinary schools coming up. And people are actually going to the vet less because of the economy. And so there's less of a shortage that there used to be during COVID times than there are now. So we see a lot of people actually trying to expand their hours, saying that they're down in like their wellness appointment times. So my worry is if you are in vet school or you're going to be a new grad in the next 5 years, you're going to be competing against these people for positions, and they can be hired for much less and do almost everything you can do. And so it's going to be hard unless people and pet owners specifically say, no, I really want to see a veterinarian over this position. It's going to be hard to say why you would get one versus the other. And we're going to have to see how it all plays out. The people who are proponents of it definitely say the same thing as you. Like, this is something that is a broad idea, and it still has to be very much like narrowed down.
I mean, I think you go a step further. Like, you don't have a national vet technician. I mean, anybody could be a vet tech in some states, right, versus other places. So they probably got to start with that and trying to figure out a way to standardize some of that. And I know it's very state specific, but I think starting there would be a good place to start, and then make sure everybody has the same parameters around what workload these people can do. And then I think there's a room for a mid-level, but it's got to be, the parameters have to be set that make sense.
I think that I agree. We still don't have our positions sorted out. Like when this came in on the human side of things, you have nurses and it is standardized. There are national nursing parameters and licensing and, and
degrees very clear definition of what they can and can't do.
Right, of what their scope of practice is. This is not that. And so it feels very much like putting the cart before the horse. And I work with veterinary specialists, like tech specialists, VTSs, and they are incredible. And they do things already in our ER under my supervision that techs don't do everywhere. So if you have the people who have done the training, they do have a really big scope of practice and they can help you immensely with seeing more patients and being more efficient, but it just has to be done the right way. And I think the biggest red flag is just some of the people that are involved with this. So the veterinary roundtable, Dr. Emily King, they're going to actually have the person on who is really pushing this through one of the shelters in Colorado and who has some interesting ties with other people in the vet med community. And so she's going to be going on their podcast. So I really recommend people listen to that. I'm sure we'll get more information from her. And then as more info is coming out, we're definitely talking about it on social media. And it's interesting because I don't think this is something that everyone cares about, but I have had even Colorado pet owners say, I really didn't understand what I voted for. I voted for vet care to be cost less. Everyone would love vet care to cost less. I would love for things to cost less for me to provide vet care, right? But this Proposition 129 is not the way to get there. And there's so many other things that could be considered overall. So it's just frustrating, but it is a part of being a part of an industry that is rapidly evolving and changing. So
I'm tired of political season, so.
We are so tired of elections and politics right now, so don't want to talk about any of that anymore. I did think there was something interesting that we could talk about. I had somebody share with me their pet's case. So I had talked online about I had showed a syringe of what looked like blood and it wasn't clotting. And I asked people, what is this and what does this mean? And basically it was a sample that I took from a dog's belly and they were bleeding because they had a splenic tumor. And so usually what it means is the owners have to make a really quick decision on, are they going to go to surgery or are they not? It's a true emergency. And a large portion of these that are bleeding splenic tumors are cancerous. But I had one person write me and tell me that they had their dog have a similar thing, or at least that's what they thought. So this is at Moto Girl 415, and she said, our dog had what looked like to be a splenic mass that had spread into his chest, had all the signs that pointed to that, went to the cancer clinic and found out it was hundreds of cysts. He picked up echinococcus in Iraq before he came. It's a parasite. No. He picked up echinococcus in Iraq before he came home from a war zone. We were thankful it wasn't a tumor, and now he's being treated with a dewormer medication. It makes me think of all the other pets that have had weird diseases from tapeworms and other things, and the owners and clinics aren't always sure what it is. So just an example of, yes, we might think of the most common things, but there's still what we call the zebras out there. So the uncommon things in the herd of horses where you're like, oh, that is not at all what you would expect to find. And the big thing for this is, thank goodness that owner was like, you know what? I want to make sure that this is what's going on. They went to the specialist. They were able to do more testing. And it sounds like hopefully if the dog gets the dewormer, it actually could be cured from this disease versus being diagnosed with a cancerous issue. So I just thought that was really interesting because they thought that they had the splenic mass, they had the masses in the chest, so they thought cancer, but it ended up the masses in the chest was treatable. So very, very cool story. And I thought it was something that would be fun to share with everybody. A little bit of hope if your dog does have something going on. And actually, I had a splenic tumor I removed the other day. The dog was bleeding. The owner was not sure if she wanted to pursue surgery. And I just was supportive of like whatever way she wanted to go. She did it. And I got the histopath back and it was a hematoma.
Not sure what that means. By your excitement, I'm assuming it's good.
I wanted you to celebrate with me. So it means that the spleen started to bleed for some reason, and that it wasn't cancer. It wasn't even a benign cancer. And she was saying that the dog played like pretty rough with the neighbor's dogs, like before whatever happened. And so I don't know if one of those dogs like hit them hard enough, just like if you think about in a car wreck, but it was a hematoma. That means the bleeding, like this is curative. And I would say it's maybe once a year that I remove a spleen and it comes back as like it's curative. So I was so excited. I was sad because it wasn't in the ER and I couldn't call and tell her myself. One of the other doctors did, but I didn't want her to have to wait for me to be back in there. So just a little like, I don't know, reminder that it's not always cancer. It's not always worst case, which is why I will tell owners the statistics. But if they want to go ahead with surgery, they want to take that spleen out, they want to go for it, like I'm in it. We'll do it. It'd be great. So I did have someone reach out, and this is at mar.alias.shruflow. Anyways, wanted to know, it said, "Hey, Dr. Crocker, my name is Mar, and I'm currently a vet tech in LA, and I'm going to school to be a veterinarian. Congratulations. I'm a freshman in college, and I'm studying to be able to be hopefully transferred to UC Davis one day. Do you have any tips or advice for when I can open my own practice, or maybe before I even get there? Thank you so much for all you do. I truly learn a lot from your podcast and Instagram," which was very nice of her to say. Yeah. I'm glad somebody learned something.
Yeah. And she's not related to us.
Yeah, it wasn't a family member saying something nice. So basically what she's saying is she's a student, she's still an undergrad, but the goal is to own a vet clinic one day. So what can she do leading up to that goal? Which I think is a great question because, I mean, I am a overthinker about the future and planner extraordinaire. I think I knew I wanted to be a practice owner about the same time I figured out I wanted to be a veterinarian. So is there anything that you can think of right off the bat that she could do that would set her up for success if she wants to own a vet practice in the future?
I'll start making notes now, like not just like a mental picture of stuff you like or see, but actually physically write stuff down.
Like almost have like a dream board for your future vet practice?
Like this was really cool. I saw this, or I would love to have this one day, and start building that, because a lot of times you get stuff on paper becomes reality. And not just kind of a wish.
Well, and I think you forget things. Like she has a ways 100%. Until she gets there. And so
it'll change and morph between now and the time she wants to do that.
Yeah. And it might be something I always tell people, like if you're working in our industry and you're going to hospitals, especially like before you're set at one hospital for sure, there's going to be things that you go in and you're like, this is really cool. There's going to be things you go in and you say, I absolutely hate this. It's important to take note of both those things. And sometimes it could just be an overall feeling and vibe. Like when things get crazy, how does everyone react, or how do they handle that? Like, do they stop? Do they huddle together? Do they reset? Or does everyone spiral and have just a negative spiral? So even identifying like the cultural things that make a difference, I think are really important. It's easy in our head, or at least in mine, it was easy to be like, I want a beautiful building and it look like this and it do this. But as I went through this experience, I almost found that it was better to focus on those things that are not just the aesthetics, and that having a good team and having people that bought into what you want and being in a community you really cared about was more important than having like the biggest, shiniest, nicest building on the block.
Yeah. And I think also processes and workflow will dictate like layout and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So you may have an idea of what you want the place to look like or feel like, but when you look at your process and your workflow, it may change the aesthetics of the practice.
That is true, because when we were building, when we decided to basically cut our lobby in half, that was because our flow was going to be one where people walked in the door and were immediately put in rooms versus waiting in a lobby. And if we had left our lobby so big, we would have lost an exam room, and really it would be empty most of the time because our flow is working out the way that we want. So those little things can make a big difference, you're right, in the design. I also think it is really important to just think about finances starting early on. We know that undergrad's expensive. We know vet school is expensive, which hint, hint, people in Colorado, that would be one thing that we could work on to make vet care better. But I do think that even looking at now, like, what are you doing Are you saving money? Are you taking out max loans? Do you have to take out max loans? Like, what is your lifestyle? What are you spending your money on?
And just having good credit. I mean,
oh, that's
don't
great.
go out and have terrible credit today that's going to cost you in the future.
So actually, that's interesting because when I was in college, I got a credit card. And at first I was like asking my dad, why do I really need a credit card? And he said it's because you have to build credit. But this was an important thing to realize as an undergrad student is I needed to buy a credit card and buy things on the credit card and pay it off to build my credit. And I just thought you'd have good credit if you only used like cash for things, or I only used my bank card and I budgeted really well. But it actually is helpful to actually get big purchases and then pay them off and show that you can do that, which I had never realized. Is that what you would say too?
Yeah, I haven't looked at how your credit score is put together, but yes, having a credit card and using it wisely and paying it off every month definitely builds credit. So you want to start that now.
And putting things in your name, like
Yes.
if you might have somebody helping you pay bills, but you still want to have things in your name and then be paying those things off. And so that can definitely help. I definitely had classmates that took out like max loan amounts, and then some bought horses.
Yeah, don't do that.
Some bought like the newest computer, someone on vacations. And I do think, college is great. You want to.
Now, there may be a plan. I never thought about this before, and don't take this advice because I haven't thought it through.
Oh, gosh.
But there may be a way to take out max loans and take that cash and store it to the side, because it may not accumulate interest until after you graduate. And then you have money that you could use for down payment at maybe a lower interest rate because it's student debt. I don't know.
Let me remind people we
Do
are not
yeah.
experts.
Let's think about that strategy a little bit before you do it.
We are just sharing
there
our
may be a play there.
experiences. But so be smart about what loans you take out, how much you take out, what your interest rates are. There are a lot more grants out there than I think people realize, in scholarships. I got a scholarship just for being from my hometown, and there's a huge database that you can search for those things. So any ways you can save money when you're an undergrad or looking to go to vet school, I think is really, really valuable. The other thing is networking.
Yes.
I think, it's funny. I watched the Martha Stewart documentary recently, and she was a stockbroker at one point. And it was basically like she wanted to be around people that were extremely smart and wealthy because she wanted to be there one day. And so she learned, she said, how to talk and how to think like them and the moves that they had made to be where they were. And I thought that was so smart. And so if you really want to be a certain type of veterinarian or own a practice one day, I think being around people that are doing it successfully and not completely burnt out from it, but enjoying it still is actually really, really valuable.
I would agree. You'll learn a lot just by being in their presence.
Yes. And I am one of those people. There are some hard days. Someone asked me how it was going the other day owning a practice. And I was like, just when you feel like things are cruising along, there's bumps in the road, but that is life in general. But I still really like having ownership over something and it being mine completely, that I can do what I want with it. Now, I know that you would love to make even more money off of it.
Taxes, property tax checks today, and personal property.
Today is not the day to
today.
ask you how you're feeling about business ownership. But for the most part, it is fun to have my dream that I've had for so long go just like her, and have it be a reality. And we're definitely learning along the way, and we appreciate people listening to us, being a part of this journey. If you have any questions for us, you can follow us on social media at Questions with Crocker. You can listen to us again on Apple or Spotify. Please leave a review. We would love to see them. We'll read the newest ones on here. And if you have questions, you can text them or you can send them through social media. We thank you so much for being here and have a wonderful day. Bye.